Another logical important point in Java object-oriented programming, we define a class as a group of objects, right? As I said, as I gave an example for bank account, for withdraw and deposit, I'll be having multiple objects, right? So you can call it as group of objects which have common properties, right? Class can also be defined as a template or a blueprint. Focus on these words. It can be also called as a template or a blueprint from which objects are created as a logical entity. Now see, object will deal with the real-time entity, right? It will be dealing with the physical world, not with the logical world. What class will be doing is whatever objects attributes are defined, he will be trying to implement it in a logical part, right? So if I want to implement it in a logical part, technically, programmatically, what I need my class with all these fields, right? What I need are the different fields, the methods, the constructors, blocks, nested classes, interfaces, and so on. These are some of these listed, which we'll be seeing technically in our further lectures. Okay, so let's see an example of object and class via a simple program. Okay, I think I have notepad here. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, as we have seen those snippets, I'll take a class as public class student. I'll change the plain text to Java mode so that you can identify the system keywords via the color combination. Right. So what I'll do is I'll take an ID. Right. So this will be defining my different fields. Right. What are the fields? Or the data members, or you can call it as instance variable int ID. What else can I take? String name. Right. So a student class now has an ID with an integer, not as alphanumeric, and a string as name. Right. So first we'll see to create. You can write comment in this way. Using main function within the class. Right, I'll use this main function inside the class itself. So I'll put a main code here. Public static void main. Right. Now what I need to do is I need to create an object of S1, right? That is my student class, right? And I need to print it. So how do we create an object? We use class name, right? We take an object name, suppose as S1. If there are multiple objects, you can use S1, S2, S3, S4, and so on for different students storing of data respectively, right? Equal to new. New, you can see this is a system defined word as it appears in the pink color. It is a system defined word and the constructor of that class. As of now, you note down that with S capital, that means if you're having your class name, right? And if you write it as in terms of method, so a constructor is nothing but a name with same name as of class name. We'll see the significance in further lectures. As of now, you remember a constructor has same name as of its class name. So in this line, new keyword will allocate memory on the heap for S1, right? So S1 has two parameters, class student, integer ID, and string name, right? So these two entities or attributes will be prepared to be loaded at the runtime, right? So what I'll do is now I need to access those, right? Accessing means to print those values on the screen. So for printing, what do I require? System.out.println. Now for accessing, what I need? The object name, that is S1. And what I need to take as an input on the screen? ID. So separated by dot ID. Right? So this is how I access my members through a reference variable. Which is the reference variable here? The object itself as S1. For second variable, S1 dot name. Okay. Now to save, which file name must be given? Student.java, because my main class is student, right? So my file name will be student.java, and I'll replace this. And probably I think I have resolved the issue for path setting because there are too many setups installed on this machine. Let's try, otherwise we'll go for bin. Probably it's working. Let's see. Student.java, compilation done. Java file name. Okay, so S1 is 0 and string, that is S1 string ID is 0 and S1 string is null. Why? Because we have not provided any of these values yet, right? For that you need to import system.in and you will be needing a util package or IO package, right? So as of instance, it is printing its default values. So default value for integer, if you have not mentioned anything, it will be considered as 0. Default value for string, if you have not mentioned anything in the program, it will. Okay, so this we saw with writing main class, main method inside the class. Now what we'll do is write our main class, main function outside the class, the same logical program, but with a different method using main outside the class. So this will, I'll change this to Java. Okay, so let's create a class as public class student. I'll take integer ID, string as name, and end my class, right? So this will be a single entity. Okay, now what I need to do is I need to define my own class as of main class. So again, keyword as class and a new name for the different class. Now there are two different classes. First is class students, who is having an attribute as ID and name. And we have a main class, right? So our entry point of execution where our program will be starting will be from this line, right? Not this line as it is the first one, because here we are having main in this class. So public static void main will be here. Now we'll be creating an object of the class student. S1.id. Same procedure for name for second attribute. Okay, I will save this. Now while saving, what will be my name? Test student. dot Java. Let's see if this works for compilation. Otherwise, I'll paste it on bin folder and don't go for Java C test student. For the public folder. This is related to the packages because we are in the default package, and public is not default, considered not default in Java. Okay, so I'll paste this in bin folder test student. Okay, so here we have our folder name. I'll go for command prompt. Okay, the same output, right? But the writing methodology, the terminology what we used was inside the class, main inside the class, and main outside the class, right? So this is how you can define an object oriented using classes and objects in different terminologies. Now, according to you, you have seen both these methods, right? Main defining outside the class and main defining inside the class. Now you tell me which approach according to you you find the best suitable to be implemented. Both will give you the same output. There's no difference between any of those using main inside the class or outside the class. Which one do you find more convenient? Think as a programmer, which method should you be implementing? Yeah, anyone in the chat box? Yeah, everyone is saying main outside the class. So I think this second approach you find more convenient. May I know the reason? Why do you find out that the second approach, writing main outside the class, is more convenient as compared to this first one? See, it's not about the association. Main will always be associated via this object S1 here. S1 is a reference variable of student class, right? So this will have a reference of this class here, right? So this class is having integer ID and name, so it will be associated. Instead, what we are doing here is we are creating one more class. So there's an advantage of using this terminology. Yes, Palak is right about the code readability. Yeah, very good. This we can have as an agile development part. Today, nowadays, what we see is in software development, you can see as in part of software engineering. If I want to remove this student class and implement some another class as employee, right? So instead of removing this entire from my code, again compiling and again providing a deployment on any might be server or any desktop application, I will create one more class as employee. Now what I do have is a separate instances of two different classes which are being implemented in test student, that is in main class. Right, Sonia is right. This can be covered under inheritance, right? So that will be a part of inheritance. We'll be seeing that in future lectures. But as of now here, from software point of engineering, agile development, you can see this is the start of what agile development we study in software engineering, right? So if I do not want to create an object of student class, what I'll do is I'll keep that class as it is. Might be in future I might be needing. So here for instance variable, what I'll refer is the employee class. So this will be employee. Now S1 ID and name can be included here also. If I take some another variable as say S2, so S2 will be for employee. What I need to change here? Sorry. So if I'm trying to call this from employee, you can see the reference will be indicated to employee class, not to student class, even if their attributes are same, right? Both employee and student will be having an ID and a name, but the objects, referring objects of this instance class is to employee, but not to student. Okay.